people have lost their crops, they've lost many of their belongings, and the presence of so much water creates a very serious risk of waterborne diseases, things like cholera. The country is currently facing an outbreak of cholera with more than 9,000 cases as of today, around 1,000 cases happening a week. We have the risk of diarrhea, one of the biggest killers of babies and children. We, of course, have a risk of malaria. So the impact over the longer term could potentially be quite a lot more substantial, particularly for children. And I would say things like access to basic services, maternal, newborn and child health care, education, there's a real risk that those will be cut off for prolonged periods of time. So we're seeing a concerted response from the UN, from UNICEF, from the government, but the challenges are pretty substantial. We're talking about latest estimates from the government that around 500,000 acres of cropland have been affected. And, you know, that's a kind of an abstract statistic, but it really plays out when you talk to people in the villages who say that they now don't know how they're going to feed their children. They don't know where they're going to get food from. These are people who rely on subsistence agriculture to survive and as their main source of sustenance and of revenue. So the impact of that on people is tremendous. So luckily, UNICEF had been working with the UN and with government to pre-position large quantities of supplies before the cyclone hit. And we're now working to mobilize those to the most impacted children and families. But it really is making the response challenging. I was talking to a young mother a couple of days ago in Kelimani, and she said to me, like, I haven't lost hope, but I am very worried about how I'm going to find food and water for my children. And that is really, you know, a heartbreaking story. And there are thousands, probably tens of thousands of mothers of children who are out there tonight in similar situations. So the impact in human terms is really very tragic. And so when these cyclones hit, they really cause a lot of impact. And it's children and it's families who suffer the most.